Alright, what's up, folks? Today I'm going to do something I haven't done before. I'm going to do a DVD disambiguation, or struggle at trying to do a DVD disambiguation. Watched a couple of them, so just try to figure out how the format works on YouTube, different people. But, and this I'm kind of excited about. Let's see, so backtrack. In 2004, I moved out on my own, got my own apartment. Um, and some friends of mine were living across the street and they were sharing an apartment. We were all going to share an apartment, but then at the last minute, I enrolled in college and it just it's like, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to live on my own because I want to focus on my studies and that kind of thing. But anyway, so I was working at Sonic, and one day I went to work. I just wasn't feeling good at all. So I went home early, got home, and I was flipping through the channels while I was laying on the couch, and I came across this show, and I can't remember if it was the first or second episode, but at any rate, I fell in love with the characters and the situations, and to me, it was really realistic from what high school is like. I mean, I finished high school a couple of years before that, but it was the way that they embodied the situations, that kind of thing, and just it was really realistic. But the show I'm talking about is Life as We Know It. And this was on ABC for the 2004-2005 season. It trying to think. I think it's 13 episodes. Two of them were unaired on this set, so the series itself only made it to 11 episodes, I guess. Which it's kind of reminiscent of Freaks and Geeks. I guess the public just wasn't ready for it. I got some notes on the iPad, so pay no mind to that. But at any rate, this is the box set. It came out in 2005. I was working at Walmart at that time, so I was walking down the aisle and I just saw. I didn't even know they were releasing. I just saw it, so I picked it up, and I've watched it over the past 10 or so years, probably 5 times. I just got done watching it again yesterday because I wanted to do this video, so I wanted to watch the entire series again and refresh myself with it. It's a glossy box. I mean, it's really nice. Um, and so you have the main dude characters on the outside, and then on the inside with the episode index, you have the three main female characters. Yes, this is starring Kelly Osbourne. I'm not really sure how that came to be. I watched commentary on a couple of episodes. They didn't necessarily say how it came to be. She just ended up being in the show. Um, and so that was kind of interesting. I was a fan of the Osbournes at the time, so that also pulled me in. Just for the fact that she was on there. I really liked her first album too, and so that again was kind of what pulled that in. This is we got here Sean Ferris, which he plays the main lead male character. His name's Dino. And yeah, I named him after a dog on Flintstones, or a dinosaur on Flintstones, whatever. But at any rate, I remember there was a big to do when the show came out on him as a person, because they're like, look at this guy, he looks just like Tom Cruise, and he's gonna end up going places. I mean, he got an award that year at the MTV Movie Awards or something like that, basically the equivalent of most likely to succeed or something to that effect. But it's really weird because honestly, he hasn't really done anything of any notable, notoriety, which is kind of sad because I thought that he was a decent actor. I mean, he was promising. He wasn't nearly Tom Cruise level in the show, but he showed some great potential that he could really go places. But I mean, it just I haven't really noticed him in anything of any huge Hollywood blockbusters or anything like that. But you know, what can you do? So this is created by Jeff Judah and Gabe Sachs. Jeff Judah and Gabe Sachs both worked with Freaks and Geeks in production or writing, that kind of thing. So that's kind of interesting. And Jeff Judah also worked on as writer of Diary of a Wimpy Kid 1 and 2. And for those of you who watched it on the CW, he was also creator, writer, and developer of the new 90210. And he also worked on Undeclared as well, which Undeclared was basically the spiritual successor to Freaks and Geeks. So I guess Undeclared would be Freaks and Geeks in college. That was another great show. I believe it had Seth Rogen. I believe it had Jason Segel. Um, and I'm thinking there's cameos from other characters from Freaks and Geeks. I can't remember. I only watched the season once. I would like to rewatch it, but I don't really remember that much about it. And it's also created by Gabe Sachs, which he also worked on Freaks and Geeks as production and writing as well. I was looking at him on Wikipedia, didn't really say much else of what he's worked on. He did work on Undeclared as well. So I mean, yeah, this show does have a lot of good ties to Freaks and Geeks. So for those of you who really enjoyed it, I'd also suggest to check this out. Freaks and Geeks was set in the 80s, 1980 to be specific. This was set in current time, 2004, 2005. So it's not like a throwback or anything. So if I guess unless you were in high school at that time, it may be a little bit more difficult to get into because some people gravitate to Freaks and Geeks for nostalgia factors. But I think as far as the times go, they nailed the characters perfectly. But let's see. So then we got John Foster, who played Ben on here. Now reading, I think he did do some other things, but I can't remember now. I should have wrote that down. On Wikipedia, it did say he did go on to do some other things. And then last we have Chris Lowell as Jonathan. And they did say in the commentary that this was his first role, that they were actually, one of the casting coordinators was at the beach and saw him playing volleyball and basically just went up and talked to the guy. And then he goes and reads, and they cast him for it. So that worked out pretty good for him. So basically, he was playing opposite to Kelly Osbourne. So it was interesting to see both of them whenever they're doing their scenes because they're both have absolutely no acting history at all. Their first, real exposure to acting. So it was kind of interesting to see if they actually paired these two newbies up together. But they did quite well. The very first scene that they said that they filmed was those two together at the carnival on episode 1. And so they said it was really nerve-wracking, being the very first scene they commit to film is with the two people who have zero experience in acting. But they said they both did really well, and that really set the tone for how that would go. Now, one thing I really like about this show, and one thing I really like about shows like The Wonder Years, How I Met Your Mother, I really like shows that have narration. Big fan of shows that have narration because it's kind of interesting to see, what are the characters thinking. Christmas Story, fantastic movie. Without the narration, would probably be nowhere close to being as great of a movie as it is with the narration. And that's, again, all thanks to the narration. It adds a level of detail that you just can't get from just watching the characters play out. And and they did the narration with this from the three main male characters, but they did it a way that I've never seen narration been done. Basically, they break the fourth wall and look directly at the camera, and they tell what they're feeling, why the scene that they're in goes in slow motion. So it's almost like, when you're in those situations and you're actually thinking about stuff in your head, and it's like, everything goes in slow motion. Say, you're in class, a new girl walks in, she's freaking hot. You sit here and you're thinking about, what you'd like to do with the new girl, and pretty much time and everything kind of stops for a moment while you're going through this, and then time and everything catches back up.
They say boys think about sex every 15 seconds. I think about it every 5 seconds. I mean, I'm thinking about it right now. And now. And now. Man, that's less than 5 seconds. You see what I'm saying? How are you supposed to go to school when all you can think about is sex? And then they hire teachers like Miss Young. Seriously, why would they hire her? It's too distracting. How am I supposed to read while she's sitting at her desk? All I can think about is doing her on her desk.
A twinkle in your eye, go to sleep for 10. And anticipating, I will be waiting for you to wake again. Hot temptations, sweet sensations.
Oh my God!
Right, just fooling around, nothing else.
Of course. I can hook up whenever I want. I'm not bragging, it's just the way it is. But I want my first time to be with Jackie. Jackie is perfect. And I know that she's a virgin too. I don't know, there's something about being the first guy there. It's like, no matter what happens, they can't take that away. I was there first. But it's more than just wanting to have sex with Jackie. I love the way she makes me feel. The way other people look at me when she's on my arm, it makes me feel important. Like, if she chose me, I can do anything I want with my life.
Because I was thinking maybe we could get together.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is killing me. How do girls do this? Hold out. Don't touch her. Gotta hold out. I can't hold out. Can I go to the bathroom, please?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, it'll be a good story then.
That's what I was thinking. I'll see you later.
Bye. I've only kind of sort of been with one girl. It didn't go very well. She told me I could do everything but, right? But I couldn't find everything. Or, well, anything, really. I mean, it's not like those drawings on the chalkboard or even the pictures in the magazines. So, she just laughed and left. Thing is, Deborah would never laugh at me for that. She's the best. And not that I like her that way. Not that I would do that with her. I mean, we're just really good friends. Though she has kind of been hinting that maybe we should, at least I think she might. Okay, all I'm saying is she wouldn't laugh at me. Right. This is what sucks. It's like we can read each other's minds, but I have to pretend like I don't know what she's asking. It makes me sick. But her foot on my leg doesn't make me feel sick. It makes me horny. You see, Deborah's womanly. She's got an ass and boobs you can really grab onto. I'm not just skin and bones like Jackie. But I don't want to get laughed at. I hate being laughed at more than anything. So, I have to sit here and pretend like I don't notice what that foot is doing. May I please go to the bathroom?
Hold it until dinner gets.
So as you can see, I mean, they pulled it off really well. I mean, it worked really, really well. I think as far as adding narration, they went and did it in a way that hadn't been done before, and it really worked. So that was really what drew me in, is because that they can't actually go and say that stuff out loud. The character can't say that stuff, so it's really interesting that they're able to break the fourth wall, have the character actually relate to you what he's thinking in those situations, because he can't actually say that to the girl. That would be stupid. There's another thing that I really enjoyed about. Now, speaking on the Freaks and Geeks connection, there we go. This actually had some recurring roles from characters from, or actors from Freaks and Geeks. Most notably is Becky Ann Baker, which was Sam and Lindsay's mom in Freaks and Geeks. She plays Ben's mom in Life as We Know It. And so she has quite a recurring role. I mean, she's in majority of the episodes in the show. Anytime it shows him at home, she's in it. And I didn't even recognize her or realize her until 2 days ago when I started watching this again. I was like, well, I'll be darned, that's the mom from Freaks and Geeks. And so I never realized that originally. And let's see, we also have Sam Levine, who played Neil Schreiber. He appears in several episodes because one of the story arcs is Ben, he's in a play for Romeo and Juliet. Sam Levine's character wrote the role or wrote the play, and so he's basically like kind of the co-director throughout the entire thing to make sure everything goes fine. So he's in a good amount of episodes throughout that particular storyline. We also have Natasha Melnick, who played Cindy, the cheerleader in Freaks and Geeks. She went on to play Sabrina, which is Deb Kelly Osbourne, which is Deb's cousin. She was in 2 episodes. She has short, choppy blonde hair. Again, I did not catch her the original several times I've watched this. It wasn't until this week I was like, huh, that's what's her face from Freaks and Geeks. And we also have Busy Phillips, who played Kim, and she's gone on to do other things. She was in Cougar Town as well. She was in something else of some notoriety. I can't remember. But she played Alex, who was Deb's boss, in a couple episodes at the very end. She worked at the Seattle scene. And also, I believe Craig Ferguson is in there. There was an Irish-speaking guy at the end who played Deb Kelly Osbourne's dad. He looked a heck of a lot like Craig Ferguson. If it wasn't him, then I'd be surprised. I should have done my research on that. I'm not quite sure, so don't. I guess take that with a grain of salt there. Now, basically, if we could get into one of the other things that really drew me in to the show was it has a fantastic soundtrack. And it's the soundtrack of all the stuff that was going on at that time. So there's a lot of garage rock, a lot of pop punk, stuff like that, pop rock. And it really helped out the scenes. I'm going to show a couple of scenes here that really drag this home. Most notably, the one standout scene that really, the music just took it all the way home was when Dino catches his mom and Coach doing it. And they had Franz Ferdinand with Take Me Out.
Talking about bringing her a bottle of wine. She'll think it's romantic. You don't need an ID, okay? Nobody's at your house. Sneak a bottle out of your dad's shed, hide it in the bushes, and grab it on the way to Jackie's tonight. That, my friend, is a plan.
Just saying my ID would have worked too.
And they said in the commentary they were originally going to have white stripes on that scene, but it didn't work out. And I'm glad it didn't work out because this Franz Ferdinand song lends so much better to that scene because of the signature change. And I've always loved the time signature change on that song, but the fact that they actually utilized that as a segue in the show, in the scene, was just beautifully. It just worked out perfect. Another great piece of music is they use Cell Dwellers' I Believe You when Dino was caught on the couch making out with Zoe.
Some help?
You know what? If you could just get the door. Sure. There you go. Hey, you guys want to come over for dinner? I learned how to cook for a family, so there'll be lots of food.
Well, we don't want to put you out.
No, you're not putting me out. Plus, no hard feelings about this morning.
No, not at all. Don't worry about it. Dad, dinner here?
As long as it's not gluten teriyaki, I don't mind.
I think we're safe there.
What I needed you to say was
Dino, you dirtbag!
what I needed to believe was hidden from
That worked out perfectly. And as they're walking out, you can hear it kind of muffled, and then they open the door and the music blasts. And the way that they used that was really, really good. They used a dashboard confessional, several ways to die trying during the carnival ending, and they said that they wanted to cap off that scene with basically all the guys not saying anything, just using facial gestures and that kind of thing. And it really worked out great, especially with that song.
Oh, how we shouted, how we screamed. Take notice, take interest, take me with you. But all our fears fall on deaf ears tonight. They're burning the roads they built to lead us to the light and blinding our hearts.
And then they also had "We're at the Top of the World" by Juliana Theory while they're getting ready for a dance, and it's just the song really helped move that particular scene along.
We're at the top of the world, you and I. We've got a lot of time, and it sure feels right. 'Cause you reached in your pocket and pulled out a pass. You can take me anywhere. 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 Sha-la-la-la. Sha-la-la-la-la-la. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can take me anywhere. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can take me anywhere. Sha-la-la-la. Sha-la-la-la-la-la.
And also Modest Mouse, The World at Large. Dino went to a party with his ex-girlfriend, saw her making out with another guy, absolutely decked the guy. He went out and told his buddies what's going on because of that.
What the hell is wrong with you?
Dino? It's my mom and Coach Scott. What do you mean? I saw them having sex.
No way.
What? When I went home to get the wine, they were there. Come here. I'll see you guys later.
All right. Go, D.
Ice Age heat wave
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
if the world's at large, why should I remain? Walked away to another planet. Gonna find another place, maybe one I can stand. I move on to another day, to a whole new town with a whole new way. Went to the porch to have a thought. Got to the door and again I couldn't stop. You don't know where and you don't know when, but you still got your words and you got your friends. Walking on to another day. Work a little harder, work another way. Well, baby, I ain't got no plan. Gonna float on, maybe would you understand? Gonna float on, maybe would you understand? Well, I float on, maybe would you understand? The days get shorter and the nights get cold. I like the autumn, but this place is getting old.
Because the entire episode he's hoping that his parents will, forgive each other and work stuff out or whatever. And then he gets home, the song's still playing, dad's sleeping on the couch, so clearly things are still sour. And I thought the way that song worked in was just really great. Other notable songs that didn't really enhance the scenes, but were still definitely from that time. We got All American Rejects with Happy Endings, Postal Service with Such Great Heights, Sum 41 was Sleeping Away, The Donnas, Too Bad About Your Girl, Hot Hot Heat was on there with Talk With Me, Dance With Me. We got Snow Patrol, got Brand New, got the Scissor Sisters, the Hives. I mean, all this stuff is just exactly from that time. And I thought it was a great time in music. There was a lot of stuff coming up. That's when me and my now wife, we started talking was while the show was airing. That's when I first started talking to her. And so, I mean, there's a lot of nostalgia associated with the soundtrack, with the music, and with that particular period of time. And it's really interesting to watch the show to see the girls are still wearing flare pants and the guys are wearing bootcut jeans, which is what I mean. That was huge at that time. I mean, everybody wore flare pants, and I remember going to Under Oath shows and Haste Today and stuff like that. And the guys are wearing girl jeans, and they're all wearing flare jeans. So I mean, it was kind of interesting. But now everybody is wearing skinny jeans, but it's just interesting to see. Um, this is basically just kind of an exact, cutout of fashion at that time as well. And so I thought that whoever came up with the fashion design just absolutely nailed it. I mean, all the guys, they dress exactly how you would think these particular characters to dress. I remember on the first episode, uh, Sean Ferris's character was wearing an American Eagle shirt that said Beavers on it. And they said after that episode aired, pretty much all the American Eagle stores sold out of that design. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. But I guess we could talk about the story because that's probably the most important part of a good show. Without a good story, it's crap. So the show follows these three characters and basically the request to have sex. That's pretty much the entire show. Is these guys and their quest to get laid as many times as often as they can. And so pretty much the main story though is following him and his endeavors to make it with this girl, and then things get hard, and so he tries to make it with another girl, but he can't because he's thinking about the first girl. Um, we have this guy, and the first episode, he catches the his English teacher changing after I guess dance class or something like that in the back, and so then he starts a love interest with his English teacher. She reciprocates that love interest, and so pretty much majority of this series is them doing it in the car, at school, at her house, so on and so forth. So that was kind of interesting. And then lastly, Jonathan's character, his whole thing was he really likes Deborah Kelly Osborne's character, but he's afraid that his friends will make fun of him because she's overweight, and he doesn't like it when his friends make fun of him, but he really likes her. They really connect, and so it's this battle in his head. Should they date? Should they not date? Once they date, should they do it? Should they not do it? She turns out to be more experienced than he is, and so that crushes his ego, and so it's this whole other thing there with that as well. I really, really connected with this character because at the time I had just come out of a relationship with a girl at the time, and it kind of reminded me a lot of their dynamic because at the time I always wanted to date girls that I would get people's approval. I didn't have any brothers. My friends, they kind of didn't care. But my cousin at the time really reminded me a lot of this guy. He worked at American Eagle. He was just that type of guy, and so I really wanted his approval. And so I remember, kind of sneaking around and not saying anything about dating this girl because I didn't want him to know. I didn't want him to give me crap about it and that kind of thing. And so, I mean, I really, really related with his lot in life and how that kind of went through. Now, and basically she told him that, hey, look, either I want to be your girlfriend. So, if we're going to do anything, go steady or whatever, then you need to tell your friends. I want them to know and all this other stuff. And so he finally told them, and at the carnival scene, he came out as, you know, this is my girl, I don't care what you guys say. And they still gave him grief about her being overweight and that kind of thing. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But basically, so majority of the show is about his struggle in life, and the other characters just kind of fill it in. So the show starts off with on the first episode, he's wanting to he's pressuring his girlfriend into doing it. She says she's not ready to. Finally, she says she is ready to. So he's like, well, I'm going to go home and I'm going to get some wine and we're going to make the night special. He goes home to get the wine. And when he gets home, he finds out that his mom and his hockey coach are getting it on. And so finds out that they're having an affair. And that completely just crushes his world. And so the entire series with his character is basically about his family kind of falling apart, and how that affects his relationships with his friends and his girlfriend, because he was too ashamed about it. He didn't want to talk about it with his girlfriend, and so that eventually put a wedge in their relationship, drove her away, and he didn't want to talk about it with his friends. He eventually had to talk about it with his friends. Hockey was his life because it was his coach. He ends up quitting the team. His dad goes and decks the coach because he finds out about what happened. It was this whole, you know, sordid affair, but it was a heavy subject, but it really worked out well, and blended itself into the show because of that. But I mean, the other guys, they just kind of fill out the thing with their stories, you know, just hanging out at school and that kind of thing. It doesn't pay too much information to their home life. I mean, of course, you know, Ben, he's doing it with the teacher, and that kind of blows up in his face. And eventually, he hooks up with Jessica Lucas, who played Sue Miller. He hooks up with her. Her dad's a teacher, and her dad goes and tells the other teacher that, hey, you need to get out of here because you're preying on children and blah, blah, blah. So she eventually has to move to Denver. And that was like on the next to last episode, I believe, that she moved to Denver. But overall, I mean, I think it's a fantastic show. It's very well written. It's very realistic. It's very raw. It's basically how you expect 16-year-old guys to be in school, who are basically jocks, good looking. Well, I guess they're not all jocks, but I mean, who are good looking, popular, and can pretty much have any woman that they want. So, I guess I'll wrap it up. I just wanted to kind of talk about it. This is on Amazon Prime for, I think, $13. So if you have any interest in Freaks and Geeks or Undeclared or coming of age high school stories with copious amounts of talking about sex and doing it, or if you graduated from high school in about 2005 or 6, and you could definitely relate to these characters, then I would also suggest picking it up, because I thought it was a fantastic show. And I was disappointed it got canceled, but it seems like that's all the good ones. Life as We Know It, Freaks and Geeks, Undeclared. They all got canceled in the first season because the public just couldn't take that sort of imaginative writing and originality. It just wasn't your cookie cutter nonsense like Dawson's Creek. I don't understand how Dawson's Creek can make it for 35 seasons or however the heck long that went, but Freaks and Geeks couldn't even make it to one season. They got pulled after 15 episodes. But that's another argument for another time. But yeah, I guess thanks for watching, and go check it out.